Hi everyone, I'm Vicky Murphy. I am a Jira Align specialist with Valiantys, which is a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. And in this video, I'll be covering the updates to Jira Align with the release of version 11.9. Starting off, I want to cover an update that actually isn't in the release notes, but has happened recently, which is the soft launch of Focus. If you haven't heard of Focus yet, it is Atlassian's newest enterprise strategy and planning tool that is designed to help organizations define, manage, and track their strategic priorities. This launched on February 25th, 2025, and will be included with Jira Align licensing for existing and new customers going forward. Within Focus, we'll be able to connect our work goals and ultimately people and funds to our organization's top strategic priorities. If you want to have Focus enabled for your Jira Align instance and it isn't already, do reach out to Atlassian support for assistance with that. And if you want to learn a bit more about Focus, we actually made a deep dive video covering a live demo as well as our thoughts on how to best use Focus in your organization and where it fits in the Atlassian ecosystem, which is available in the description of this video. All right, let's shift over to Jira Align for the next update. Starting off with a small update to the risk roam report. This is a report under the program level of the tool, and it shows us all of our risks and how we have roamed them for API. Below the roam categories here, we also have these three pie charts. And what we can now do up on the top right under view settings is actually filter based off of the risk of occurrence, which is the middle pie chart here, or the impact of occurrence. And this just allows us to further narrow down our risks that we might be interested in understanding here. Also, if you aren't using those fields, you can totally toggle off these charts here as well. Right. Next, let's go ahead and jump into the admin settings and talk about an update to the Jira connector. So I'm going to go to admin settings. I'll go to the Jira settings page. And on the Jira Setup tab. And I'm actually going to do a Control F just to find the sprint setting down here towards the bottom of the page. Here we go. I believe it was in the last release, if not 2 releases ago, we had a name change to one of the settings that is now called the Story Sprint Assignment Direction. And within this setting, we have 2 options, bidirectional and Jira to Jira Align. With this release, Atlassian has actually enabled this functionality to give admins more control over the sprint sync behavior between Jira and Jira Align. So now whenever you choose bidirectional, what this will allow is when a story or a defect, so those team work items or work items mapped to that team level in Jira Align, is moved to the unassigned backlog in Jira Align, it will be properly moved to the corresponding team backlog in Jira on their board. Also, after a sprint is closed in Jira, any open issues that move to the backlog in Jira will move to the unassigned backlog here in Jira Align. When you have Jira to Jira Align selected here, after a sprint is closed in Jira, any open issues will have their matching work item in Jira Align move to the unassigned backlog. But if you were to make changes to that work item in Jira Align and move it to the unassigned backlog, that would not sync back to Jira, as the setting name suggests, right? Just a one-way sync from Jira to Jira Align. Also, one thing to be aware of is whenever bidirectional syncing is enabled, if an admin attempts to force a sync to correct misaligned sprints, this would typically be up on the board settings in the Jira connector. You're going to start to see a warning that does let you know that any sprint you may have deleted in Jira Align is going to move any of the work items in that sprint to the unassigned backlog, which when bidirectional syncing is enabled is going to sync that work back to the backlog in Jira. If you do not want this to happen, in the release notes, Atlassian has better instructions to follow to not impact your work items and keep them in the appropriate sprint. All right, let's switch back to the slides. All right, starting off with some updates to the API. First, the strategic snapshot budget field now allows the values that you see on the screen here, which corresponds with the values users could input through the UI. The remaining 3 API updates have to deal with the API tokens. And you'll recall several releases ago, Atlassian gave us the ability to start using Atlassian Guard as the authentication model for organizations who are using Atlassian Cloud. With this, Atlassian also is encouraging admins and users to switch to using Atlassian API tokens via Guard. There are more security settings and ability to control these API tokens via Atlassian Guard. So starting with this release, Atlassian is going to disable the ability to generate new API tokens via Jira Align, as well as disable existing tokens for customers who are using Atlassian Guard as their authentication model. Again, if you haven't selected this as your authentication model, you won't be impacted by this change. Right now, if you do need to re-enable these for any reason, you do have the ability to through the API token security setting in Jira Align. But again, we recommend switching over to Atlassian API tokens in Guard as soon as possible, because in version 11.12, again, for customers who have Atlassian Guard selected as the authentication model, Jira Align API tokens will be fully deprecated. With this release of version 11.9, the Kanban Sprint backlog view has some performance improvements now that Atlassian has enabled pagination controls. This should improve loading time of this module. Also, the WIP by step board report has been removed with this release. This is following the end of support for this module a couple releases ago. And lastly, we will see an update to this target start/initiation and target completion fields on themes, epics, capabilities, and features. These are now going to be always visible on these work items. You will no longer be able to lock these fields, and they will be moved up on the details panel of these work items to live directly under the program increment field. Previously, Atlassian did announce that these changes are being made to enable further changes to the roadmap functionality that we expect to see later in 2025. We did have several upcoming changes announced in this release, starting with the removal of the stand-up attendance report in version 11.10. This report has been moved to end of support a couple releases ago. Also, this is part of Atlassian's cleanup of legacy functionality that is not commonly used by customers. As always, we recommend capturing any data you need from this report prior to its removal in the next release. Also scheduled for 11.10 now, the OKR Hub rollout. So the OKR Hub has been enabled for a long time, and it is set to replace the objective tree module. It just gives us a more modern look and feel, but it doesn't have any impact to our actual objective work items. This release has been pushed to 11.10 so that it includes the filter sync between the module and the side context bar, so the team and the time box that you have selected is appropriately applied. In version 11.13, Atlassian will be removing the legacy OKR details panel. I want to be really clear, this is not a removal of objectives, but just rather an upgrade to the objectives panel. This is available to enable if you reach out to Atlassian if you have not done so already. I do encourage you to enable this at least in your test environment so you can begin updating your training and documentation for your end users. Over the next several releases, Atlassian has said that they will have a few updates to the creation process for objectives, the information architecture, and more for anyone in Jira Align, whether you have the legacy OKR details panel enabled or the updated version. And those are all of the changes for version 11.9. Thank you very much.